welcome to Every Little Bit, the casual conversation podcast about playing games while also learning about those games and the place they have in our culture. I am Joey, and with me, as always, is Jamin. Hey, Jay. How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
It's good. What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing Overwatch on the PC.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Yes. It is glorious. It is as good as you said, if not better.
I think it might be better than I said last time. I'll shut up. I'll let you talk. Tell me all about this Overwatch game, Jay. Tell me all about it.
Overwatch is a first-person shooter / deathmatch. Actually, it's not deathmatch. It's more of King of the Hill and Capture the Point.
It's an objective-based shooter.
Yeah, but
not necessarily a shooter. It's just a first-person objective-based game.
Yeah.
So.
And you last week complained about how everybody wants to play Reaper, I think. And Reaper is
I complain about that always. That's not a last week thing. That's not a last episode thing. That's just like a thing. Sort of like breathing.
Yeah.
I complain about Reaper. Yeah.
And on the PC, there aren't very many Reapers, but there are a ton of Genjis. Because
they can aim. Yeah.
Yeah, and Genji is kind of a natural counter to like Bastion. And I think that's kind of what is cool about Overwatch is that all of the characters kind of counter each other in different ways. So like, everybody likes playing Bastion, which is this robot that has a turret mode that can shoot people and kill them pretty quickly. But like Genji is a counter to him because one of Genji's moves is to repel projectiles. And like on the other side of that, there's another character called Winston, which is a giant monkey that can just run up to Genji and just kill him, basically. But he gets killed by a Bastion more often than not, and so you have this nice little rock, paper, scissors kind of gameplay with 21 different characters.
Yeah, it's incredibly well balanced, yeah.
Yeah. And it's really good. I have very much enjoyed my time with it. It's very fun. There's always outplay and counterplay to everything, which is really cool. And I think the what footage I've seen from the PC version or rather from the console and then playing it on the PC, I think the meta for a lot of it is very different. Like, yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of Reaper and offensive characters on the console, whereas on the PC there seem to be a lot of supports and defensive characters. It seems to be very different.
It might be because there's more of a cooperative nature generally on PC of where you're going to talk to people and try to work together, whereas on the console, I think for whatever reason, it's possible that the tools are better on the PC to, if you play with someone that you like, you can sort of become friends with them, and that's just a thing you can do. Whereas the whole reason I have you as a friend is because the tools on the console suck that bad for making friends. That when I did make friends playing Battlefield, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna hold on these people like they're like a fucking raft in the ocean. Like, it's like you generally don't run into a lot of good people, period. Like whether they're good at the game or good, at
good human beings.
In general, good human beings. Yeah, it's kind of a rare thing. So, and in a game like Overwatch, it generally is a pretty positive, upbeat. Like it's got a great game feel to it, but it's also kind of has this upbeat, kind of optimistic. It's a very weird thing to say about a game about a bunch of people. Like I feel like I forgot who I was talking to about this, but we're talking about the likening it to Nintendo games, of where it's like I can imagine that after a game of Overwatch finishes, all the characters just go hang out. Like that's opposed to like other games where it's like, oh no, like like Ryu and Ken fight each other or whatever, and they're just that's who they are and whatever. Whereas like in Overwatch, it definitely has like more of a Mario Party feel to it, of where it's like everything's okay, everything's basically all right. Like it's not no one dies in a particularly gruesome way. I guess it happens sometimes, but I don't know. It seems
it's very casual,
charming.
It's charming and casual.
Yes. Well, that's I think I said it last episode that I compare it to Rocket League, of where you can pick it up and be dangerous with it. If you've played first-person shooters or you played first-person games before, you can be dangerous with Overwatch in like a half an hour, easy. Pick a character, basically understand what that character does, and you can be fucking dangerous with them. The characters are the game. The mechanics are similar enough that if you pick up one character, you can easily switch to another and basically understand what to do. But it's deep enough, and everything is there. Like there's enough to learn about the maps and the characters themselves that you could spend probably the next year of your life really learning the hell out of every single character and becoming pretty good at or even just becoming good at one character. So,
one really quick criticism I would have for it though is that it does feel like some of the maps are geared more towards certain characters and that you shouldn't play certain characters on certain maps.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I don't think that as a criticism. I take that as an intended design. That's the intended design of it. Like there's Dorado, for example. I don't think I would ever defend on Dorado as anyone but May or Torb. Those are my two defense characters on those maps, and I just love those two characters on that map using in the most situations. But I would not use Torb or May in a situation on say like I wouldn't use either one of them and haven't used either one of them on Volostaka, I think it is, the German mech factory map. I wouldn't use them there either, defending or attacking. So, I mean, like, there's just certain maps that lend themselves to certain characters based on choke points and sizes of things. I mean, May especially, because her wall is a set width and a set height and a set everything, and there's certain maps it works really well on, certain maps it doesn't. So, I mean, that might be because May is a newer character, or it just might just be because they did all that intentionally. I totally believe that they would. So, I mean, I like that, though, because it forces people to play not Reaper.
Right.
In theory, but I mean, they're always going to anyway, so, like there are certain maps where it's legitimately a better idea to be Zarya as a tank or Winston as a tank than it is to be Diva as a tank, because of the way that the maps are set up and things like that. So
it's really funny that you say that, because the one character I would say I've seen the least is Zarya on the PC.
That's interesting. I mean, I think it might be because of just the control scheme. That on the console, Zarya is very, very represented. She's around a lot. Also, maybe because I think people on the consoles, from experience, they seemed to play more conventional characters, and Zarya is a pretty conventional character. She has a beam weapon, which is kind of frustrating if you don't know the range on it, but she's a beam weapon and a grenade launcher, basically. So it's like what those things are. That's pretty understandable. Whereas like Winston, I really don't see a lot of Winstons on the console because I really don't think a lot of people know how to play them.
Tons of Winstons on the PC.
I've never played a good round as Winston. I've never really learned to play him that well. Same thing with Genji. I've never really learned to play either of them yet. I will eventually, but that's
See, I
think it's just the way it is.
I'm a Torbjorn character through and through, or a Torbjorn player through and through.
I like Torb. Torb's good stuff, but it's just depends on the situation. I would rather play the other team based on character. Like when I see the other team's characters, then I can pick my character. Basically, I prefer if I could do that every single time, obviously, because then I have knowledge that I shouldn't have. But whatever. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Or a Soldier 76. I play him a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
On attack.
I didn't think you were gonna say that. On attack. He's on attack. He will often show up on. He's very, very popular on the Xbox, especially with me, because I love playing Soldier 76 because it allows me to not have to go healer, but I also have the ability to heal my team because there's no way in hell that my team is going to go support. I think that you have a better chance of winning a 1-on-6 match on consoles than getting like a choice of 5 people that may play support. Like no one on console likes to play support. It is like it's got to the point of where like those are like I know if I call for a support, I'm probably gonna get someone talking shit to me. Wow. Because there's such a negative like something about support. That's what I've said, that I'm looking forward to them adding more heroes into the game because they really need a character like Diva or May in every character, a cutesy character. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, I love those are 2 of my most played characters. I love those characters. They're big and pink and like the cinnamon roll, as the kids say, of the game. and then they needed a Reaper. Like they need a healer that looks like Reaper. So everyone's just like, oh yeah, he kills people and he's a badass and whatever else. Oh, but he heals people. It's like with Mercy. I feel like a lot of people don't want to play Mercy because they're sexist pieces of shit. And I think a lot of people don't like playing Lucio because they're racist pieces of shit. And a lot of people don't want to play Zenyatta because they're fucking he's Zenyatta and he gets shot in the head like almost instantly and killed by any halfway decent Widowmaker. So it's like I kind of feel like they need to add in additional healers to the game that like a healing tank would be a really cool thing to have, or like something like other types of healers that would allow people to play like whatever, like a Reaper that just fucking jizzes health everywhere. I don't know what the hell's gonna get people to fucking play support, but and I might. The other thing too is I might be totally wrong because I might just be seeing I'm only seeing what I see. I'm not seeing what the data that Blizzard has. Mm-hmm. Tons of people might go support. I mean, because I always go support when my fucking team needs it. So like we have a support. So, statistically, they might be looking at it and saying, like, oh, shit, it looks like people are playing support. And it might just be because people like me that are like, are you fucking kidding? We've literally lose fucking 5 games in a row because no one wants to go fucking support. Because you want to go fucking, like, you got to have 4 Reapers on a team or...
Hey, man, if your gamer tag is YOLO 420 swag, Reaper is the only character you can ever play.
Well, yes and no, because I actually fucking hate. If there's something I hate more than 4 Reapers, it's when I have a really good round as Reinhardt or Soldier 76 or anybody really, but generally it's like Reinhardt, Soldier 76. Never Lucio because he's support, no one wants him. But like any of the time, Diva definitely. Anytime I have a really good round playing the popular characters that aren't Mei. Immediately the next round, my team will switch to like 3 of that hero. Like if I get like, especially Reinhardt, if I get play the game as Reinhardt, 3 of the people on my team will fight over who's gonna be Reinhardt. And it's like we don't need a Reinhardt. We're defending now. Like we don't need that character. Like it's all well and good. And it's like, and then I just basically like I have a great game, and then I immediately have a shitty game because people are just like, no, I want fucking KD, man. Like fucking yeah. It's like I just.
Pretty much. I have noticed that a lot of the people who really like League of Legends have been playing Overwatch, and there have been a lot of... because there's a lot of similarities between the characters and kind of thinking about the game as a meta and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's really fun, and it's cool. It's a good game. It's a good game.
Most hyped game of 2016. It's a good game.
It's a good game. It's a good game.
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
Overwatch, more Overwatch is the answer. That's why I was stepping all over your section here. Well, also, okay, so mod support for Fallout came out, so of course I had to turn on start up the Xbone and spend about like an hour figuring out the mod support stuff. It's a little more complicated than I think it needed to be because of my setup. Basically, I ran out of save space on my console somehow. Not hard drive space, but you can only have a limited amount of saves, and with real shit show. And then like just load order is still a thing and whatever else, but like it's good. It's good. I don't think I'll ever love Fallout 4 as much as you. At least, like as much as you think about Skyrim, I don't think I'll ever love Fallout 4 that much. Like my true love may always be New Vegas for lots of different reasons. Like but I never want to say anything critical about Fallout 4. Like it's a messy game, and the story's straight up Bethesda, and like it's all right. Like at a distance, it's everything I ever wanted from Fallout 3 and console RPGs. Like if you were just like if you give me the E3 pitch for Fallout 4, I'm like that's fucking awesome. But then I play the game and I'm kind of like fucking maybe I needed to start a new character. I don't know. But mod support seems good. This is a fucking brand new thing. So given how it's the first ever, it's pretty damn good. Like the best 2 so far. My favorite 2 mods so far have nothing to do with really anything. They're just the radio mods, Atomic Radio and WRVR. I have laughed harder at any of the commercials on Atomic Radio than almost anything that's in the vanilla game, with the exception of the thing with the boat that I don't want to spoil. And yeah, like it's fucking awesome. They did an amazing job with that mod, Atomic Radio, and then WRVR is absolutely something that should have been in the original game. It remakes. They change up the way that one of the radio stations works in the game. There's a radio station that you actually can go to in the game, and it's fucking great. And they WRVR adds in that sort of functionality that it's there. And I'm trying to be vague because the sort of problem always with Fallout 4 is that you could put out hundreds of hours in the game and just not know what I'm talking about and not want me to spoil it or whatever. Like I've put hundreds of hours into that game easily and haven't even completed half of the main story because I just do all the side quests because I fucking hate the main story. But West Tech night vision goggles, everyone seems to talk about. That seems pretty cool. I haven't really messed around with it much. Underwear lets you add ballistic weave and more stuff. Lets you combine different armor and clothing combinations that you should have been able to do, I think, sensibly in the original. That's a pretty cool thing. Everyone's Best Friend is a really good mod. It lets you have dog meat in addition to a companion, which seems to be what was intended originally, what I've heard and seen and everything else. Hairstyles mods, there's lots more hairstyles and all sorts of stuff. Love hairstyle mods, can't go wrong with that.
My favorite mod in Skyrim, now that we're talking about that, is there was a mod that added footprints into the snow whenever you walked over it.
That's to me, I think like that's the kind of mod that I want to have. Is like the stuff that's just like little tweaks and little things like WRVR. Like I said, it's one of my favorite mods that I've played with simply because it just adds a new radio station and it adds like a new presence in the world. And it's just like, it just feels, I feel a little bit better with that than like making my character look like SpongeBob or something, or or making it like as much as I really, really want to eventually play around with it, I am holding out for so long to not make the Randy Macho Man Savage to turn that on, because I know once I turn it on, like that's it, like the game, I break immersion and I just can't fucking ever go back to it because I could never.
No. See, it's all about the Thomas the Tank Engine, man.
Yeah, I know. It's like those are the two. Cross cybernetics is a pretty good one. I've been playing with that a little bit. I like the little exoskeleton thing. I haven't really played with it too much, but I like the exoskeleton. I've been wearing that, which is pretty cool. And I did install and mess around with the Busty mod because I wanted to see. It's very. Here's the like. I made fun of it when we first talked about mod support, and I felt bad because I saw it was like one of the most popular mods, and I noticed like because the body like I absolutely need a body replacer mod in that game because the bodies are kind of weird. Busty does a little bit better with it, but it's still like it's boobs. Like that's what it is. It just makes everyone's boobs bigger.
I mean. It's a Bethesda game, and now you've allowed mods. Just wait, it'll get worse. How many mods can you have on the console running?
You can have 2 gigs worth of mods.
Okay, because in Skyrim they had a number.
Okay, yeah, no, in Fallout, you can have as many as you want as long as it's under that 2 gig cap, and they said that eventually they will try to work on getting that cap up.
Okay.
But we're talking about a game that limits the amount of fucking save files I can have, so who the fuck knows? I don't know. I don't know the technical details of it because I just didn't care to look into it. But I know it's 2 gigs because there's a very popular mod, gun mod that came out that was using textures of guns from other sources that were not kosher, I guess you could say, and people were upset about that because it had to be taken down. And that mod is like, I want to say it's like 800 megs. So it's like I was gonna install it, and then I was like, yeah, fucking no, and then they removed it from the store anyway. Or they moved it from the app or the whatever it is, like the fucking mod collection or whatever. And I was like, it's probably for the best because if I install something, because the other thing too is when you're talking about like when you play with mods enabled, their version of mods, it's not like you can just. It doesn't seem like you can just turn the version of mods off without fucking your save up. It's kind of, I don't know. It's a little more complicated than it needs to be. It's obviously.
Well, it's kind of like that with Skyrim. I know in Skyrim, and this is speaking as somebody who jumped from consoles to PCs, and I couldn't tell you how things work. I could just tell you how to make them actually play. But in Skyrim, like when you load Skyrim, it loads the main file, like another file, and then whatever the DLC files that you have. And so you could have a total of like 260-ish files running, and every file would be like a mod. And so that's how you would run it, because every mod would have, most mods would have scripts and things like that. So every time that you have a mod running in the background, there's another script running, and it just becomes a super complicated thing. But basically, I was the kind of person who tried to get 180 mods to run and work with each other. I actually got it to work a lot of times. Like, it wasn't as impossible as people said it was. It just took like 8 hours of actually troubleshooting to do, but,
I've had about four crashes so far. To put that in context, I played through all the Automatron stuff, or most of the Automatron stuff. The first DLC, I played through that. I played through a bunch of just kind of dicked around in the game a bit. Like I think I've played for about like 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours tops with all the mods and everything. And I've had when I first started, I had about 4 or 5 crashes testing out stuff, load order, whatever, and then maybe 5 tops, I think. And then that's what took me so long to get started with it, was to get everything correct about everything. And then once that was set, it's been fine since. Like it crashes about as often as fucking Fallout 4 does anyway. So it's basically okay. It's basically pretty cool. So I don't really have a problem with it. So I can tell. I can't. All right, let's put it this way. I can't tell if it's because I've been playing Overwatch and the Gears beta and everything else that's like smooth as fuck, or if it's the mods or what it is. But there is it does seem slower. The frame rate has lots of issues at times, but that's fucking Fallout on the console, so I don't really know. Like Fallout 4 is not a game that should be on consoles as far as I'm concerned. Like it's great that it is, because I love playing it, but it's a fucking shit show on the Xbox when it comes to frame rate, so and the loading times and everything else. So
the best mods for Skyrim were always about either changing the UI and how that worked, or about adding all these little touches like footprints in the snow, or changing the skybox and things like that. I don't know. I always thought that the mods that added immersiveness and created a better user experience were always the best.
Oh, no, and you're totally right. I mean, I'm sure that I will soon be installing a shit ton of mods for building settlements, because the settlement building is a fucking pain in the balls in Fallout 4. But I just feel like talking about Fallout 4 is like talking about chocolate ice cream on a hot day. It's like I'm lactose intolerant, so I could totally understand if you don't want it or don't like it. But like fucking hell, it's like chocolate ice cream on a hot day. Like it's Fallout 4. There's really or talking in the context of Skyrim, it's like, what the fuck are you gonna say about Skyrim that's new or interesting or different or whatever? It's like, I'm glad that mod support is out. I'm glad that they've got a game. I still have the same issues that I had with the vanilla version. I don't think that any mods will ever change the issues that I had with the vanilla version. So, it's good. I like it. I'm looking forward to playing Far Harbor, but I don't know. We'll see.
Most hype game of 2015. Joey says it's good.
Yeah, it's all right. Just like Overwatch. It's
all right. Like Overwatch. Just like Overwatch.
Okay, so instead of the question of the week or whatever it is that we usually do, I figured we'll how do we introduce this, Jay? We have a guest.
We have a guest,
Jay.
We have a guest.
Yes, and our guest is Justin. Hey, Justin.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Justin, I don't know how to describe you, because you are, like, not only were you the creator of our little world that we played in, but you were also like the smooth, silky voice of God in that world. We played Shadowrun. I guess we back up a little bit, because I'm
we should back up
ahead of myself. Yeah, we played. We decided. Oh, all right. First question: how the hell did this even happen?
I brought it up. I kind of got a Jones. I'm living in Japan, and a couple things happened simultaneously. Another friend of mine, who's Australian, was like, "Yeah, I'd really like to play some D&D sometime. We just need to get a group of people together." And I was like, "All right, that sounds great," but nobody else here is nerds, so that didn't work. And so that kind of got me like jonesing a little bit to do tabletop again. And then at the same time, Node started doing a D&D series on their channel, which was hilarious and really fun to watch, and it looked super fun. So all of that together got me really kind of like itching to try to do something. And I figured, like, well, we probably could have played D&D. I don't think everybody would have been super into it, as opposed to Shadowrun was like this whole new thing, and there's no fantasy taint on it, I guess. Like, it seems a little bit more in most of our wheelhouses than swords and sorcery.
Yes, yeah. There is. I mean, I think that's what made it perfect, is because there is a fantasy twist to it. It's a for people who don't know, Shadowrun is a futuristic cyberpunk RPG set in. Well, you said everything in Seattle. There's lots of, obviously it's Earth, so there's lots of different places it could be set in. But it's also about the concept of magic awakening. And so there are wizards and dragons and so on and so forth, but there's also corporations and dragons that run corporations and things like that. So it's yeah.
It is like the perfect version, like vision of 90s badass. It's kind of like Shadowrun. They were like, all right, in the future there will be humans who are also machines, and like this cybernetics and the Matrix, like this 80s cyberpunk version of the internet mixed with VR, and then like, oh, but then magic comes back. And then there's trolls and goblins and shit, and there's, oh my god, it's awesome. And it's just like awesome. Gasm is kind of the best way to describe the the way the background of the world is, I guess.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like I can't tell in the pitch meeting if it was like I guess it's sort of like the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup thing, of where there's like a guy's like, I want a game that's got fucking fantasy in it. I want a game that's got fucking technology and cyberpunk stuff in it. Let's put them together.
Like, why not? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we played as a group of, I guess, misfits that all come together, and we have to do a mission, and that's what Shadowrunners are, is they kind of are off-the-grid mercenaries, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's a good description. Kind of the word Shadowrun is both it's a verb, and it basically means to do anything illegal, or anything like under the radar. So like almost anything could be a Shadowrun. Like, I don't know, like a bunch of the stuff we did was like door kicking and shooting a bunch of people and then getting the fuck out. But anything could be it, like getting in quietly and hacking a computer, or stealing some data, or even doing an illegal weapons transaction or something like that is a Shadowrun, or drugs, or whatever, anything. Just criminal underworld shit. The reason it's more interesting than just like playing a crime game, if such a thing exists, is that the world of Shadowrun is very heavily regulated by the corporations in it. Like, the corporations are states, literally. So what used to be the United States is now owned by, I think it's like either 3 or 4 essentially large corporations, and then those corporations have these, like, the world corporations kind of within them. Think about like Microsoft. Microsoft probably has some operation in Lithuania. Like, they probably have something, like an office there or something. Think like that, but
With
big enough
territory.
to influence governments, in a huge way, in like a very controlling way. So, like, there's this big difference between Shadowrunners who are underground and don't really have identification, and are essentially, their existence is illegal, and like a normal citizen who has the equivalent of a social security card and just kind of a normal, like, drone life of, work 12 hours, VR for 12 hours, eat your protein mush and go back to work. Like, that's it. As opposed to Shadowrunners. So they it's a lot more hard scrabble, or it can be, there are very rich Shadowrunners. But...
Yeah, it depends on how talented they are, unlike our group, who... Like, that's... I had to bite my tongue when you're like, well, sometimes people break in quietly. It's like, we tried to break in quietly, all right? We really...
No, to be fair, the first time... Because I've never played a tabletop game, and how many
None
of us
had.
Yeah, none of us...
None of us
Justin
had.
was the only one who had. And So we didn't really know what to do, and then our first mission was like to go and rescue this kidnapped girl, and it's at this McDonald's place or the McHugh's.
Yeah.
And
if anybody's familiar with Shadowrun who's listening to this, I just did the fast food fight, the very basic, like it's a quick demo run essentially that's kind of famous in the Shadowrun community that the publisher released for free essentially. So all the characters and everything from that first mission and the location and all that stuff is pretty much like ready to go, like a Lego set that they just give you for free. And I mean, you can buy more of those, lots more of them, or you can make up shit on your own, which is essentially what I did. But yeah, so that first one was fast food fight. So that's what Jay's talking about. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so we get there and our demolitions expert decided to blow a hole in the wall.
What was that? Was that how that went down?
That's pretty much how it went down.
I'm still fuzzy on how all this kind of
As I recall, there was like an argument because like a couple of people were like, "Well, let's go in the front door and just try to be like cool and go talk to the guy."
That was me.
Yeah. Let's just go talk to this guy who has information, and then we'll see how he reacts. And if he reacts poorly, then we can light the place up or whatever we got to do. It's fine. But so like two people or three people were like, "Yeah, okay, let's do that," and then the other 2 or 3 people were like,
including me,
yeah, we got to sneak in the back. Like we got to break this lock on the side of the door, and like, but none of you knew how to lockpick. I think was the problem.
Yes,
somebody got shot like by the lock, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get in. And so Demps was like, well, I got C4. Let's make our own fucking door.
We also had a blind shaman that we had to carry around.
Yeah,
I don't know where she was during that first mission.
She was with the people who blew up the wall because it became this huge problem.
So it was me. It was me and Demps. Okay, so hold on, let me back way the fuck up, which is that. So okay. So for people who because this is primarily us talking about video games. Now we're talking about tabletop games, and there is. I had never done tabletop stuff, and I try to play as many board games as I can with people, but even board games are kind of slightly different than than say Shadowrun or like a tabletop game, especially because board games tend to end. And you tend to have an idea of like when you play like I don't know fucking Monopoly, like that's like the running joke with Monopoly is it never fucking ends. But or like a game like a Risk season or whatever, it's like they take a really long time to play, and that's a bad thing. You tend to want those games to resolve very quickly, or if at all possible, resolve in some sort of way, because that's sort of the narrative arc of that thing. Whereas in Shadowrun or tabletop games, like it's a very weird thing of where we all because we all trust you, Justin. Like that was that was the thing when you said like I'm coming up with this idea, we're gonna do Shadowrun, this is what it is. All of us immediately were on board, and especially too like I got really fucking nervous because our group is when we play video games to break them. Like we all like don't like that's like with fucking Bad Company 2 or Red Dead or like fucking name a game, Monaco even, like we play games in ways that are trying to test the game, trying to push the boundaries of the game, because the game doesn't have feelings. Like the creator of Red Dead is, or the creators of Red Dead are not going to like fucking break out into tears because we decided not to play their immersive and amazing multiplayer mode to instead just fucking slash at each other on horses for like a half an hour or two. It's like that's like whereas
how close can I stand to the dynamite?
How close can I stand to the dynamite game? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like whereas if you're playing a tabletop game, like immediately there's this sort of undercurrent of like I want to be very polite in a way. I want to play my character, but I also don't want to waste your time or to do something unbelievably shitty. And then I think that lasted for about like 20 minutes, and then that all went out the fucking window, and it went right back to like, we break games. Like, that's what we do. Yeah. That's who we are as a group. We break games. That's what it is. And I mean, even just the character creation. So what I was trying to retreat to, the point I was trying to retreat to was that, I played a short snarky lesbian dwarf named Maggie. She was like a combat engineer, pornomancer, which is like a very like Tony Stark snarky, sassy and sexy person. Jay, you played a big, were you a troll?
Yeah, I was
giant,
a troll variant. I was a giant, so I was like 12 or 14 feet tall, like Scandinavian giant person who was on the run from a corporation over in that part in northern Europe, basically.
Scandinavia.
Right.
Scandinavia.
Yeah, Scandinavia. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was an interesting character because the nice thing was that you all allowed me to kind of massage your characters in ways. You're like, I want to do this, and I'm like, all right, it's a good idea, but maybe like move it this way a little bit, like push it toward that side. And
and I think
you
that
were
was
all
what
pretty,
had to
pretty
happen.
open with that.
Yeah, that had to happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm glad that it did, and I'm glad everybody was cool with it because, like I guess it's true that you can pretty much do anything in an RPG, and especially a tabletop role playing game. Like you can be anything that you say you are because it's that simple. It's like whatever you talk about, and within the context of the game rules, as long as you're kind of within the realm of possibility, you're good to go. But
like the Key and Peele gangsta D&D
Yeah.
sketch. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's like, yes, you can roll to do that, but like I don't know, like I rolled a 20. Exactly. And like, I mean, I have to say, like, I'm supposed to be like semi-impartial as a GM, but like whenever somebody succeeded really heavily, like that's like, oh fuck, like it wasn't supposed to be that easy. God damn it.
Well, like
probably like 20 minutes to fill this shit now.
But I never got the sense. I never got the sense that we were playing against you. Like that again.
Right.
Like when you're playing
Thank
a game on a computer, yeah, and you're playing you're playing it like an artificial intelligence. You can do whatever you want, and it's not like it has feelings, and it's not like it's out to get you. Generally, I mean, you can certainly program an AI to do that, but generally, when you play a video game, they tend to be like, at least the good video games. The reason why they're good is because they have a pretty tight feedback loop because they tend to be fair. You do something, you get a certain expectation, that's what it is. Whereas with us, I mean, we were doing a lot of weird shit that, I mean, so you had Jay as the giant, you had me as the tiny, sassy dwarf, you had fucking Michelle, Jay's wife.
she was a blind shaman.
She was a blind shaman. So, like, right off the bat, that was like, okay, we have a character that's blind in like a combat environment. That's never like a super great idea, but she had her reasons, and everything about her character fit, and like it's not to say that it was out of place or wrong of her. It was just that it was it's an interesting character when interesting things happen.
Cool. Yeah,
it became a thing that we had to play around because I think, especially towards the end, she became the most powerful character. if she could get her spells off, like she became the person who did everything basically.
Right. There was a lot of like, can she get close enough to this guy to freeze him? And then,
right.
like, once he's frozen, can somebody put a shotgun to his head?
Well, because so the other thing is, I guess we should kind of explain like how we were playing this. We were playing over Google Hangouts, and we would have like, I guess what you would call it a Paint, MS Paint thing going on. So we had.
I'll tell you exactly what we did. We played over Google Hangouts for voice communication, but we also used an app or an extension for Chrome called Roll D20, which if you like tabletop games and all your friends live somewhere else, is a really good thing to have. And what Roll D20 does is it provides some dice rolling tools and stuff like that, but it also gives you a map screen that I can, as the GM, manipulate in whatever way I want. And like I have different filters than you guys do, so I can show you like this, you can see this area, but not the other shit I've set up for you. And beyond that, there's all kinds of visual cues and aids and stuff to kind of show you where everybody is. Which was great. It's just kind of a pain in the ass to set up every week to make a new map for a new location or something. So,
and then
it was fun.
And then in terms of like gameplay, it turned into sort of a verbal XCOM game where we would tell you what we wanted to do when it was our turn, and then we would like roll to see if we could do that thing, or you would tell us no, we can't do that thing, or something.
That is literally, yeah, that is literally like you just described almost all tabletop RPG combat. It's just like verbal XCOM. It's like, well, that happened, so now I can do this. And we're like, yeah, you can do that. All right, that's fine. And I'm just the game, like giving you, instead of like a little red square, you get a green square when you can move there or something like that. You know, XCOM. Or like, sometimes I would give you like the hit percentage. I'd be like, yeah, I mean, you can shoot at that guy if you want, I guess.
I think let's let you in on a little secret here that we all talked about behind your back, which is that we all assumed that you knew everything. There was never a moment where any of us was like, fucking this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I was like, yeah, okay, I can only run that far. Well, that's what he said. There must be a reason for it, like that, because coming from a background of video games, we're all just used to things that are just pre-programmed. Where it's like
that's the way it is.
Exactly. To use XCOM, it's like you can only go this far. Why? Because the fucking game says so. So it's like, okay, we're playing with Justin. Well, Justin said you can't do that. Why? Because fucking Justin says so. Like, who are you to question the great Oz? And like,
that's why it was a good group. It really was. Like that really helps. Like, it's a little weird, not weird, but it's a little unusual, I think, to get a group of people who are all brand new, who've never played a tabletop game ever. But then after 2 or 3 sessions, you're all still like in. You know what I mean? Usually people get a little bit sick of it, or they're just like, all right, that was fun, I guess, but I'm not in it. But you guys were all like, anytime, like every week. I was like, yeah, let's play Shadowrun, and they're like, yeah, we all have time this week, so let's play. Rather than making sometimes game or adult game groups are famous for falling apart after about a month.
Yeah.
So
we lasted like 4.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and to put it in context, I mean, Michelle and I still talk about it probably about once every other week. Jay and I still talk about it pretty often, and ever since we played Shadowrun, every single time I play an RPG game or any game where they give me a character creator, Maggie is my character.
Oh,
so
you see, I really liked the character that I made, but I'll let you guys in on a little secret. About 3 weeks in, I was like, yeah, I want a new character. That's why he slowly started
That was not
changing.
A secret. That was not a secret.
No, but that's why he started out as like this weapon expert, and then after a while, he just turned into a sword and shield person.
And see, that's a thing for me too. It's like, I mean, all right, as a GM, I tried to be a little bit like, and Jay will understand this, I don't know if Joey will, but I tried to be a little bit like Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Where I'm tough but fair. Like, you know what you can do, or like you have some idea of what you can do as a character, and if you do those things correctly, then you'll probably succeed. Like, I try to make things fair. I try to make things like interesting, but at the same time, I don't want it to be so difficult or frustrating that everybody's just like, fuck, like everybody's constantly dying. And online, I mean, at least from what I read on Shadowrun forums and stuff, I am in the minority when it comes to that way for a Shadowrun GM. There's a lot of people who are like, how do I make this harder?
To sand!
Exactly. There's a lot of people who really do want to play GM versus everybody. I just can't. Like, I was like, why? Why? Like, it's not fun. It's not fun for anybody. If there's a challenge, if it's scary, if it's a little tense, that's fun. But it's not fun if it's like, okay, everybody's walking toward this building. All right, that's cool. Jamin, you're unconscious. All right. Everybody else, 3 seconds after Jamin falls to the ground, here's a gunshot. Like, what? What happened? Why? Oh my god! And then, and then Jake just gets to sit there for 45 minutes while we discuss what happened in combat, So that's not fun. That's not cool. Nobody likes that. So,
but I think sorry, go ahead, Jay.
I think for us, every situation became a running joke of what innocent person was going to die.
Yeah. I guess I never realized. I kind of approached all this. I remember now it's kind of coming back to me that I was listening to Harmontown at the time,
Yeah.
and they were playing D&D. And so they kind of had a lot of like running jokes, but it's like that's I kind of imagine that's sort of how it is. We play video games, we tend to get a lot of running. We tend to have a lot of running jokes as a group because we play video games together, and we kind of have that sort of, repertoire. We have or is our rapport with each other, and both, I suppose. And so like I guess I never realized that you're the most creative person in the group. And then from there, we have sort of everybody else to kind of like tack on to that. And it allowed us all, like, we never pushed you in such a way. Like, you were nice enough to us that you didn't just fucking kill us out of nowhere. But we all felt very protective of our characters. We all felt like adequately afraid all of the time. Like, we were way in over our heads.
That's exactly kind of what I wanted. I wanted everybody to at least like their character or to feel somewhat invested in it and to have put some time into it. Because at that point, then you're like, all right, I have this little person, and I can do with them what I will. And like, I kind of know their ins and outs and I have a backstory and everything. And instead of just being assigned a name and a class, which, is sometimes okay. But I've been in groups before where it was like, oh, we need a thief. So, do you want to be a thief? All right, cool. Well, I have a thief, like macro, basically, like a character sheet ready to go for a halfling thief. So why don't you be a halfling thief? I'm like, okay. But now I just have no idea, like who this person is besides those two words, like halfling thief. All right, cool, and I can start to kind of put it together in my head. But giving you guys, freedom essentially to be like, here's all the shit in the world, here's all the kind of races you can be, and like here's like some of the class archetypes, which is kind of how Shadowrun is different from D&D also, which is instead of having like a strict like I'm a paladin and that means I do these things, in Shadowrun it's a little more fluid of like, yeah, you can be what they call a street samurai, but I hate that fucking term because it's so stupid. But anyway, you can be a street samurai that also uses magic sometimes, or also knows how to hack some stuff. Like, that's not unusual. It's not uncalled for. It just depends on, like, how good is your story. That was always my criteria. It's like, can you do that? Tell me a good story about it. Like, tell me why it's so cool. Tell me why I should let you do that.
Yeah. I think that kind of as a guideline, as like a guiding principle to the way we played, was if there was a good story or you could tell a good story or this sort of fit into the overall everything, you were a lot more permissive about it than otherwise. And I think that all kind of like, that's what I was trying to say. You were the most creative person. You were the voice of God and everything. But as we were given creative control over certain situations and certain things, and certainly, as Jay was talking about, like certain tropes that were sort of running jokes that were sort of in the world, it kind of all just fell in place and kind of just worked out really well. And I mean, Jay, just I'm assuming you want to talk about Linda is what you want to talk about, Jay.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like, because that became the running thing, like. So we get into this the McHughes or McDonald's thing that I was talking about earlier, and there I think I shot a bunch of civilians or something like that.
No, I don't think you. You didn't. I don't think any civilians got.
We never intended to kill anybody.
No, see, the second that you guys blew up the wall, I was like, oh, okay, now we fight. Now we fight people. I know that was when we took the mob boss, or the person, like the middle management mob person that was there, to my house, and we put a plastic bag over his head, and then he suffocated to death, Snatch style.
No, they shot him in the head and snatched.
Yeah. But it was basically like just the worst way possible of doing this. And then after that, we went and we tried to rob a chop shop, and that is where famous Linda, who was the poor secretary, who had no idea what was actually even happening at that place, what we later kind of figured out. And this was back when we were sort of learning what to do and all those sorts of things. So we got in, and I'm pretty sure I killed her.
I think this was your like sick and run.
Yeah.
And yes, Jay, you killed her. You really just killed her.
Well, again, like I don't think that any of us went in there intending to kill Linda.
No, but like you were. I mean, you know, you're like wild dogs at that point. Everybody's worried. Everybody's scared. Everybody doesn't know what's going on exactly.
Yeah.
And so you go in, and then I'm like, or you know, you're snooping around and you're trying to find some information or whatever, and I'm like, oh no, she's coming to the door, and we're, oh fuck, oh what do we do? What do we do?
Shoot her in the face.
No, it wasn't even that. It was way worse. I think their exact words were like, remember in the Avengers when the Hulk takes Loki? Like, that was exactly what I want to do that. The exact description. I was like, all right. Like, wayfish secretary, and you're an 11-foot giant, so yeah, I mean, sure, I don't see any reason why you can't.
I remember kind of that there was a little bit. Now, but I remember there was kind of a little bit more of like that you were kind of portraying her as sort of like this sort of middle-aged, like 2 kids, lives in the suburbs type character. It's like, oh, like who's at the door? Dead. Like fucking shit. Like
she had no idea. Like maybe she knew the place was an illegal operation, maybe she didn't. But like it was just like, oh, somebody's at the door late at night. I wonder what that is. And then instead of like just trying to be like, all right, ma'am, like keep calm, like we're just here for the information. Jay's just like, calm, bring him.
and you never backed off making us feel bad about the horrible shit that we did, accident or not. Like it was always like very clear that there was sort of like you were always very generous, but also kind of surly about the fact that we just could not get our shit together in like 4 months of running jobs and trying to be sort of professional about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Which is understandable. Totally understandable. It's not a personal fault of yours at all. That's us as a group. Just can't get our shit together.
In that mission, wasn't the boss a like half cyborg person and we took his legs?
No. There was a later mission where we had to intercept a convoy. And Maggie just started stripping things for parts like she did, and we ended up with somebody's legs. And later that turned out to be something that you regretted, actually, Justin, because we didn't realize how good,
how valuable they
were. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was my fault because, like, I mean, I was working without source books. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like kind of mechanics? Like, it's fun to talk
sure.
about.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So because I was playing with a bunch of noobs, and because Shadowrun is infamously very, very complex as a dice rolling system, I guess. I used a system called I don't remember what it's called now.
PDQ,
thank you. Yep. Which means pretty darn quick, essentially. And it's kind of like the old the system that Fallout was supposed to be based on, GURPS, which is General Use Role Playing System. And it's kind of like that, but GURPS is licensed and you have to pay for it. Whereas PDQ is just something on the internet made up, and so they have like this rule sheet for it. It's very easy to use. Unfortunately, it's not very robust. It's just, but you know, the GM kind of makes up for that by making rules on your own and like trying to figure out how these things work within the context of this new system. So one of the things I tried to preserve was all of the values, and like it seems so easy because Shadowrun has this huge economy already. Like they have it all set up of like, here's how much these things usually cost, like, you know, and if you have like a good dealer or connection, they cost less or whatever. And, oh, that's really cool. So I'll just use all that and like, what's the normal payout for a run and so on and so forth, and checking online. So I didn't have to answer those questions myself, and I didn't want our game to be so far removed from anybody else's Shadowrun game. And I'm like, you got 100,000 credits for this mission, but that gun costs 75,000, and like does that make any sense in the game? I have no idea because I've never played either. So I was trying to use those values, but that was just one of the things I didn't anticipate. I was like, yeah, this guy has cybernetic arms. He looks super cool, and he's gonna punch the shit out of you if you get close to him, and like clearly do not melee this guy. So like that was a pretty simple like character to come up with. It's like he's not a troll. He was an orc, I think. And yeah, so like okay, cool, very easy to tell. He has big chrome arms. He looks like Colossus from the shoulders over. And so cool, great. But then yeah, you killed everybody, which is great. And then you're just like, can I like take this guy's arms? And I was like, I mean, you have a sword and 5 minutes, so I don't see why not. Like, it can be messy, but like, you have weight carrying capacity and you have time and tools, so yeah, why not? You could totally do that. And I was like, all right, cool. And I thought that was, very, very resourceful of you guys, and I thought that was cool. And then later I was like, how much is like a nice set of cybernetic arms? It was like, oh, 3 times as much as the payout for this mission. Cool. Shit.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that how we actually bought a car?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys got the war wagon. That's right.
Yeah.
This is like the idea of like when you raided the chop shop and you stole the car, and it's like this 12-foot troll is like stuffed into a Ford sedan somehow. It's like maybe the back seats fold down and you can lay in the trunk too. I don't know. Fuck.
To give people an idea of what the world is like, I think the whole game has like 100-year history, doesn't it, or something like that? Like,
yeah, pretty easily. Actually, I think where Shadowrun diverges from normal reality is in like
what, like 2011?
Well, it like starts in World War II. Is like where there starts to be divergences, but then the real big one is 2008, I think. Actually, I don't remember my history because I haven't read anything in such a long time. But yeah, it was that's when shit started to get real, where people started to spot dragons and babies started to be born with horns and stuff like that. And like, what the fuck is happening? And nobody understood anything. But by the time, go ahead.
And there have been like 7 or 8 versions of Shadowrun in terms of like the lore and all those kinds of things, I think.
Yeah. It's an interesting community because they really are intent on keeping it up, because as an RPG set in the not so distant future. I mean, initially in the 80s, there's like old source material that's like, oh yeah, hackers, which were called deckers, like they're called deckers because they had what was called a deck, or like a personal computer that they would carry with them, essentially like a laptop, and then they would have to physically jack into the whatever they were hacking, like they'd need a cord to like literally plug into it, and then certainly around like 2001, that seemed kind of ridiculous because everything was going Wi-Fi and then Bluetooth, and then like the idea of cords, like you only use cords for 2 things now. It's like power and audio, like really. And I mean video, if you plug it into your TV, but that's it. And like nobody uses it really to connect anything except for into a wall. So that's went out the window, and so they had to rewrite a bunch of rules for that. So that kind of thing is happening more and more and more, and like as technology grows and like some technology outpaces Shadowrun's original vision, which is really, really cool. They've had to kind of adjust everything to match that.
And that's what Michelle and I brought to playing. Was we had a kind of an off topic, or sort of like a somewhat on topic thread where we talk about these things, and you had discussed with us that we had to be careful about cameras, because constantly we're being monitored, and that's a very real thing in this like dystopian cyberpunk future. Is that if you're caught doing something, they will eventually find out who you are, and those consequences became obvious as we played more with you. You had built that into the game, that people eventually did find out who we are, and that was kind of an issue. However, it's not so much that someone's watching a camera and being like, oh, that's, Maggie and, what the hell is your, Olaf? What the hell is your character name, Jay?
It's Casper. Remember?
Casper. Yeah, Casper. So is it like, hey, that was Maggie and Casper? It's like, oh, there's a dwarf and, a giant, like maybe we could find out who they are eventually, or you have facial recognition software, which is how we assume in the real world that's how that stuff happens. So then we eventually went to, okay, in the real world, Michelle and I were discussing, what would you wear? And Dazzle is a thing. For people that don't know, Dazzle is a kind of makeup that you put on your face that looks really, really fucking weird, but it throws off the facial recognition software because it makes your face look in such a way that a face wouldn't look. So, like, you have triangles and odd, destroy symmetry on your face with makeup and things like that. So immediately that's a thing. So we talked to you about that, and you were like, yeah, fuck it, of course you can wear that. Like that's something you'd probably be able to pick up at like the corner store, because the future, and like it's like everyone presumably is going to want to defeat that. So like that's a thing that you could guys do. So that was excellent that you were able to at least see the gaps that they eventually probably will fill in the Shadowrun universe if they haven't already.
Maybe. That's one of those things. It's just so cool. Like that's one of the reasons I like playing with you guys too, because as much as you play up your ignorance to everything, it's like I have no idea what's going on. At the same time, given
we tried
a set of like histories, given some lore and given a little bit of like technology well explained, it should work like this. Does it work like that? And I was like, yeah, sure it does. Great. That sounds perfect. Like, I don't see any reason why not. So,
yeah.
Okay, that made it a little bit more difficult to prep stuff for you guys because I had to kind of have a third level of detail to be like 100% sure. And I had to do a lot of thinking about like how would this shit really work in the real world because I was trying to be as real worldy as possible and to do as little hand waving as possible. To not just be like, it's just that way. Fuck you guys.
we didn't. I really don't remember any hand waving moments, to be honest.
I was really trying not to. That was one of my goals because it bothers me when I'm playing. Is for a DM or a GM to just go like, yeah, whatever. Like that's the rules. Like, I don't care about the rules. Like I care about the world. Like I have a character and the whole thing. So. I don't know, that just makes it so much more interesting. So I'm glad you guys found it the same way. And I like that you guys were interacting with it in that way.
Was that the most frustrating part of playing with us? Or
The most frustrating part of playing with you guys was it was just coming up with a new content every week of just something, where are we going, what are we doing, what kind of, like looking at what happened the previous week, which was not always exactly what I planned, which is the consequence of playing like pretty openly and cooperatively rather than antagonistically with you guys.
Yeah.
The other side of that would be that, the next week I'd have to be like, all right, well, they did all this shit, so what are the consequences for that, or what are the benefits of that? And where are we going next? Like, what's the storyline up to next? And I'll let you guys know a little secret, which is that I had a very rough idea for the storyline, but very rough is just like I could have summed it up in like 6 weeks, like maybe 3 sentences. You know what I mean? It was just like, this happens, then this happens, and then this, and then that's it. That's all I got.
Well, but
so filling in the blanks every week was probably the most frustrating part.
Yeah. Well, I think when you're designing games and writing stories, that's sort of how it has to go. I mean, that's sort of I think Jay at some point you'd kind of like likened a lot of it to Mass Effect, of where you're like there are certain or like the Telltale games where like there were certain times where we do things and there might as well just have like a box that popped up so like that character's gonna remember that, like there's gonna be a consequence to that. Like yeah, I know there's gonna be a consequence to that.
The CEO of McHugh's is going to come after us, guys.
Yeah, we never figured that what we did was so far removed week to week from the overall structure of what we were doing. We generally trusted that you had a direction that things were going in, and I think everything kind of resolved in sort of a non-Mass Effect 3 sort of way. We all kind of were like, okay, like that. Like it definitely felt like, especially having talked to Michelle about this since, we definitely feel, at least Michelle and I felt as players of this game, that it ended almost like a season of a TV show, of where it's like we played through a thing, you ended it, and you tied up a fair amount of things, and then there's still a lot of room for growth in the future, and that's why she and I still talk about it, of like, oh, hey, like, what do you think's going to happen on the next season of Shadowrun? It's like, well, I don't know. So
yeah, I'm sorry, this is a Joss Whedon show. Shit got canceled.
Yeah, well.
To be honest, if we had like, if any of us were an animator, like all when we were playing it, I really thought about like recording everything that we did and just having somebody animate it.
Well, I think I've talked to people since, and I think that everyone feels that way about their group.
Yeah,
is that everyone, because you feel so invested, like you feel like you yourself, you feel like this is the greatest fucking thing, because it's part of me and part of everybody and all of my friends, and it's this collaborative creative effort. Like, how often do we as adults get to be involved in collaborative creative efforts? Like, that's why we play video games, is because that's the closest we can get to it, really, most of the time.
Yeah, that's like the quick hit of it, right? That's the like sniffing glue of the creative effort world.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
But yeah, no. Oh shit, I lost it. I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. This is a casual podcast.
This is a casual podcast.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. I mean, we, as a player, we absolutely loved it. I can't really. I was trying to think of something where I was like, oh, that's a downfall or that's a downside of what we were doing. But I genuinely like I'm not trying to fuck with your ego here, right? Like I'm not trying to like puff you up or anything here. But we just generally everything felt right. Everything felt like our general review of it was like that was really fun. We're really sorry that we basically killed this guy in order to fucking write, like an ongoing storyline every week to be like, well, we did all this shit. What do you think about that, fucko? It's like
it wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, I really enjoyed doing it. It's just, the problem of doing this while an adult, and especially an adult in completely different time zones, is that nobody has time. Nobody has time. There's just no such thing. Like when you're a grown up and you have either school or work, there's always something better you could be doing with your time than playing games with your friends on a Sunday morning or whatever. And for me, that's what it was. It was a Sunday morning in Japan, so I'd have to wake up a little bit early for me, get my shit together, like get a coffee, and then sit down and talk for 2 hours or whatever it was. And that was fun. It was really fun. I enjoyed interacting with you guys every day. But the reality of the situation was that toward the end, I was just like, okay, I better set my alarm like half an hour early because I need to come up with something.
Yeah.
Like I had, the last week, like when we ended, I was like, okay, cool. I have an idea of what I'm doing next week. Type in some notes, and then I got to fuck off and go do stuff for the day because I have shit to do. But then, like the next time I would read those notes would be Sunday morning the next week, and be like, oh, that's right. I wanted to do all that. Oh man, there's so much research. Oh, all right. And there were one or two times I think when I had to cancel. I was just like, guys, I don't have anything. I'm sorry. Like, I'm too busy. I can't play this week. And you guys, everybody was super supportive all the time. And there were a couple times when like devs couldn't make it and stuff. And that's fine. That is the way of things with adult tabletop gaming. Is very rarely does a group last for more than a few months. And if they do, generally their game gets broken because people start to get super powerful. Like I remember when I was a teenager and I had the time to go every week for like a year, basically, to play D&D with this one group. I'd we started second characters because our first characters all ascended to godhood, essentially, which I think is a common story among D&D players of like, this character is level whatever it is, 88 or something, like just an unbelievably high number. And, he can walk through walls and levitate houses and stuff. But he can also convince everybody that he's the greatest thing in the world. So, like, you have that kind of character. And I was really trying to avoid that with you guys. Like, I wanted to give you more abilities and I wanted you to feel like a progression. But I didn't want you to think that you were ever the strongest people in the room. Like, I always wanted you to think that there was somebody bigger than you either watching you or with some kind of animosity toward you or possibly hunting you. Like, I always wanted you to feel a little bit on the ball or under the gun.
Yeah. And I think none of us really tried to make a character that was vastly different. Like, Jay, you did change your focus as time went on because you didn't like your character or you had issues with your character. But for the most part, most of us kind of went further down the rabbit hole with each character of like, my character was, a fast-talking, hacker. So it's like that's, block picking was something that I immediately wanted to get because we fucked up the first mission because of that and so on and so forth. So like that, we're just diving down on that. I think though you did poison us a little bit because Demps and I went to go play The Division. And one of the past episodes, I was complaining at length about The Division. And what I really just wanted to say is, this isn't Shadowrun, and that's the problem. Because it's not that I really wanted The Division. I don't give a shit about the Tom Clancy fucking universe or whatever. None of that interests me, given the fact that they just shat the bed with that story. What I really wanted was something that you, me, and Demps, or all of us really, could just sit down every week or every night or however often we have as a group and just play this immersive RPG that gives back to us in a way that you did and then realizing, oh shit, that's never gonna fucking happen unless they have like a room full of slaves that are just writing stories all day, that just beating them with chairs and whips and like, these Americans need stories. You work
World of
harder.
Warcraft is what you're talking about. That's called World of Warcraft.
Well, but
It's a room full of Blizzard engineers. And they're like, oh, I don't know, Pandy. I don't know. Give them something.
But like that, yeah. But that's like There's your godhood problem right there. Is that like they're constantly scaling, so it's like you eventually do hit godhood in World of Warcraft. The next expansion comes out and they just scale you back, and they're like, well, here's a new god that you got to kill. It's like I killed the last god 6 months ago when I put the game down or whatever. That's fine. But what else besides like we're not a big fantasy group. At least I'm not a big fantasy guy. So it's like what besides World of Warcraft is out there? That's where we start kind of like clunking into like, do we want to go play Eve? It's like I don't think any of us are that fucking like we don't love spreadsheets that much, so Eve's not an option. Like there's not enough video games out there that can do like yet. There's like you have to have something that is the size of a World of Warcraft with the mechanics of something that's a little more our speed like the Division in order to make something like that. And I know some people had said Destiny to me before, and I'm like, I don't like that was I'm a narrative guy. Like that was the beauty of Shadowrun is there's no grinding whatsoever. And it just fucking murdered Justin because it was never a week where you were just like, well, you're fighting a bunch of hobos in an alley this week. That's about all you're doing. So here's a bunch of rabbits and rats you got to kill in order to level up, fuckhead.
To be fair, though, I think this is something I've thought about for quite a while. I kind of thought about it back when the Xbox One was announced, that there isn't a huge difference between video games of 2016 and video games of 2009. They're kind of the same in terms of how the narrative is experienced and things like that. The only thing that's really changed is mechanics. But in terms of like a story actually dynamically changing based on your choices, we don't really have that.
Yeah, because that has to be, by definition, that at least right now, that has to be something that's human created.
Right.
And the dialogue has to be recorded, and to some extent they have to do motion capture and things like that. So it's really fucking hard to do that. Mm-hmm. And then you're just saying like, oh well, we're gonna throw away 16
half of our content.
Half of our content, or we're gonna throw away everything but 1/16 of whatever this is because that's the path that character took. It's like that's not I had played Wolf Among Us and finished that not so long ago, and that's a game where it's like when you look back on it, you're like, that game really doesn't give you a whole lot of choices, but it's really good because it's just a good story. And the more you think about the choices, like if you I kind of wonder how often that fuck with BioWare when they were making any of their games of like to say like, oh, your choices matter all the time, and then it's like, but they really shouldn't, to a certain extent. Like they can't. I mean, look at fucking what it did to Justin.
but I would say that in terms of player choice, I would say FTL is a great example of how you make a game with player choice being a major thing, and the game will play out slightly differently every time you play it, but versus a game like the Telltale Walking Dead game.
Sure.
Like most of the choices you make in that game, all they really change is a portion of dialogue and maybe a character that pops up in your group for a little while, but that's kind of about it. At the end of it all, my playthrough won't be all that different from yours. And that's okay. Just don't sell me on my choices matter. Just sell me on it's a good story.
Well, I think... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, it's funny you're talking about this, and like with just generally role-playing games or video games. And I'm reminded of the Penny Arcade comic when Mass Effect 3 came out, of like, he was like, oh, Grunt is in my party. And he was like, you have Grunt? He died. Like a long time ago, he died. Like he's dead, like dead as hell. And what? How? What? You killed Grunt? How did you do that? And, like your shepherd has some bird parts, right?
Yeah.
And then, even though it is like a very like this way or that way, this way or that way. There's only like two branches really. Mm-hmm. Even in Mass Effect, which is was at least famed for having this big choice architecture. You could figure out you could be Renegade or Paragon or whatever. But it's still, like, even though it was very binary, the feeling that people got was still very much like, holy shit, your game is totally different from mine. Like, I have no idea what you did. Like, I didn't play your game, I played my Mass Effect game, and that's still interesting. But the amount of work is just ridiculous. I think maybe the future is really the, some kind of narrative.
Procedurally generated?
Yeah, procedurally generated,
Yeah.
exactly. Like some procedurally generated narrative, which immediately sounds fucking awful to me, but at the same time could be really good. Like, you look at something like Minecraft and the worlds it creates from just algorithms, and they're always stunning or interesting. Not always, but I mean almost always, usually.
Well, I think it's because they have guidelines. And we're working on that. I mean, you fucking know that from journalism. We're working on this concept of like guidelines of like what can you put into an AI and it spits out something that makes sense on the other side. You really do not need a human to take a press release and rewrite it in a more palatable way. You should be able to just have an AI that does that in the same way that like we presumably will have that for games, but I still don't think that's going to solve the problem because everything that you did, looking at the Shadowrun experience as a sort of a game design experience, I mean, if I can kind of even just bring this back full circle to what I was saying before, I love Fallout New Vegas. And the reason I love Fallout New Vegas is because it's heavy on side quests. And when I say to you, how did you do with that side quest? That's a 2-hour thing that you and I played together. And yeah, maybe we had a different ending or whatever to it, but generally it's like, and we had choice that we were given, we were able to do that side quest. We're still basically, NCR citizens, but we just happen to do this side quest a different way or, whatever it is. Because ultimately, if you want to tell a story, like that's kind of the crazy and weird, beautiful thing about a tabletop RPG that you're playing that your friend is just coming up with. Like, you were not trying to teach us a lesson. There was no overarching theme to what you were doing. It was mostly just like we were just doing quests, and you would have a story, and there's sort of a narrative arc to the way that would work. But for the most part, like, and certainly there were consequences week to week, but you weren't trying to be like, and this was really a story about love the whole time. So, whereas when you play a video game, we're still coming from sort of the Hollywood and the sort of the movie, like movies are still fucking heavily, I mean, look at GTA 5, like movies heavily influence modern AAA games. They will always probably do that they'll probably do that for, at least a few decades until games kind of grow as a medium. And that's maybe the fix is side quests instead of main quests. Main quests are always going to be very much like, here's a story about blank. And you can have the same thing in side quests. You can have a side quest that's about blank, but it's got to wrap itself up in, fucking 2 hours, which is fine. I mean, like I said, that I think you and I, Justin, you and I both like the NCR mission in New Vegas where you have to deal with Return to Sender, where you have to deal with the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna.
Wait, Return to Sender, is that which one?
It's at Camp Golf, where
Camp Golf.
Yeah, you're dealing with the sort of, there's a guy that's sabotaging things, and you're trying to figure out why that's happening. And it's a very kind of complex.
It's really I liked it I like the way it resolved, but the actual running of that quest is such a huge pain in the dick.
Well, I mean,
just like,
yeah,
you're like, hey, go to this camp. Like, all right, cool. And then they're like, oh, you didn't get much information from there. Better go to this camp all the way across the map.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that works really well in a tabletop game, because I bet there were times where you were like, you guys got to go to the park in a half an hour. And it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Everyone gets in the car. It's a half an hour later in the park. What do you do now? Yeah.
Yeah, it is much
just
easier,
lean as fuck.
Yeah, I think I'll finish because I got to get out of here. But I wanted to finish on the note that you said that video games, especially Rockstar ones, I guess, are very much influenced by movies, and they want to be cinematic in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like tabletop, and especially the way I do it, is influenced more by books, because my inspiration for anything I was doing in that world was Joe Abercrombie. And just trying to be like that, essentially, of like kind of cynical and dark, and like, why do people do things for profit? That's why. That's the only reason. Like, does it make you feel good? Do it. Like, that is how people are, essentially. And that fit perfectly with Shadowrun. It was like exactly the same ethos as like that world. So it's like, yeah, dude, I'm just gonna write, not really write, but I'm just gonna set up a Joe Abercrombie world. Did you ever read Best Served Cold, Joey?
I believe I did. Yes.
I don't even remember, but it's
Yeah.
the revenge one where what's his face loses an eye, and like there's a poisoner, and like it basically starts out as this group of people who are all like grudgingly shoved together, and then at the end, most of them are dead, except for like one or two people, and they hate each other. So I was really hoping not to get to that point, and we never did, which is great. But
I don't know if is that a possible thing? I mean, I think you have to be a pretty good actor, and I'm not. I can speak for myself, but I mean, I don't know as a group if we were all that good to sort of have animosity in the game, but not to each other. Because I never really felt like I was talking to Fox. I was talking to Demps. Like that's like I'm kind of talking to a Demps puppet, like a Muppet Demps. So.
It does feel like that. Like you're putting on a mask and you're talking to another person with a mask. Is kind of the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you're just talking to your buddy. You're like, so I mean, Fox, what are we going to do? Are you going to do that thing we did in Bad Company a lot? Like,
which is fine for side discussion, but not in game. Yeah, no, we tried to keep that. Yeah.
And I know you guys are really good about that. You tried to be, you were as a group. You guys were all pretty excellent, with the exception of just real world sticking its nose in every day. But yeah, it was a pleasure, and I'd love to do it again, except for absolutely not.
Well, at least thanks for talking to us about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was super good. I like talking to you guys a lot. Obviously, I do it all the time, though less lately. But yeah, man, like for sure. Anytime you guys want to talk about games with me, let me know.
All right, you got anything to plug before you go?
Come to Japan.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Is like anybody who thinks they want to go to Japan, they're like, oh, maybe I could teach English there and like gain some experience and make a little. Just fucking do it. Don't even think about it. Just do it.
Okay. All right.
That's
thanks for
the only
talking
thing
to
I
us,
have to say. So, yep. No, absolutely, guys. It was a pleasure, and I'll see you guys around.
See ya.
All right.
Okay, well, thanks for listening, everybody. This has been Every Little Bit. I am Joey. You can find me on Twitter at Joey Heflick. You can also find me on the podcast Internet Boyfriends with Ryan Kloss. And with me, as always, is...
It's me. It's the person on this YouTube channel.
Jay! You're Jay!
You can find me at Plastic Nights on Twitter, and you can find me if you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Oh, you can also find me on the Facebooks. There will be a link in the description for all of the things we've mentioned so far, and you should check them out.
Cool. All right, well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time, and don't camp the spawn.